Yeah.
All right, welcome to DevKami number 180. And as usual, this is also not a prime number, obviously. It's a factor of 2, a factor of 5, etc. So this is definitely not a prime number. Ignore me, I'm just crazy. So that being said, Chi Leong had work today. So, and Sean want to join in for the fun. So, yes, let's start. So how's everything, you guys? It's school holiday. Does it affect you guys? I know one of you is a parent. So, yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay,
my child is too young. So it doesn't really
yeah,
matter.
precisely. So it's probably too early to send to zoo and all that. Too packed to go to the zoo anyway. So we don't have event this week. We have something after next week actually. DevOps meetup. I will edit myself. So otherwise, and also I forget this. This is important. This is very important. It's a favor. It's a favor. It's a favor I do for Google Malaysia because why not? It's useful. It's okay. The harm it's reasonably low lah. Okay, so let me open up as well. It's I forget to put an event page. This one. So Google Cloud Malaysia actually had something that's already happening since late last month, and it's still happening until end of this month. For you to actually get your Google Cloud skills. It's one of those skills that is useful. You want to get a job and whatnot. And if you did it well, you get swag. So yeah, GCP Only campaign. You can join for free, and yeah, they have some workshop already. So if you join, you will get the detail. So yeah, and this actually the only events this week. So next week we have some another thing. So oh yeah, event done. This one, hey. So eFabless is actually an initiative to use open source software to design your circuit. Mostly, what is MPW anyway?
Multi project wafer.
Okay,
In other words,
so
it's one wafer, but usually it's very expensive, right? For you to like pow the whole thing. So they collect like 10 or a bunch of different projects from different places and then share the same.
So they have various projects. So this one already passed. So MPW6 is already passed, but they're constantly having one. So if you're interested into this kind of thing, you should double check them. Not so big in our circle, but interesting because it's open software. They try to open to more people.
This kind of thing has existed for a very long time. The only difference that Google is doing here is number one, it's free, so they are paying for it. But if you do it yourself, normally it costs like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And in terms of the software, they are using particular ones instead of using the traditional like closed source, very expensive.
Correct. So this make it easier to go in. You still need the skill, which is a good thing. It's now limited by your knowledge and skills. So instead of that on top of money. Yeah. So yes. So let's move on quickly. Today's slow news day slow news week so nothing much happening. Interesting because this is a very fast IDE. I put this here because it's funny. That's about it. So you can install it and you can reprogram
the IDE is funny, or the
idea of having an IDE for Brainfuck is funny. And as you can see, they do previews and all that, and that's the point. Because writing in Brainfuck is actually very painful, so they give all the previews and all that. So you can't write serious program on it, and because printing stuff alone is very painful. So they do all this to make life easy for you to write it if you choose to write what.
Printing it alone is painful, but you can't always you have functions here, right?
Yeah. They do, I believe. I believe they do.
You can always put it like that. I mean, it's it is a toy language, but the pain that you experience forces you to adopt like a more modular approach so that you don't keep making mistakes.
And also, Brainfuck is interesting language, not because of this. It's because when you build it, you're building a stack machine. So in a way, you are building a virtual machine for you to build a language, which is a very modern way for you to write a compiler, right? And it's also interesting because Prefect as a language is so easy. People actually use this language to actually build verification tools for language, formal proving. So yeah, interesting, but practical, maybe not, but it's just fun. So this one is more important to every one of us here. So with the Docker desktop out for all platform, so they also introduced Docker extension. Extension is actually, so what is extension? So their extension here is actually another Docker image that can overlay on top of it for you to do stuff. So in this case, it can be things like imagine. So for example, let's say I want to use 3V. There's a security scanner. So I can bundle it I can bundle it as a extension for you to use a thing. But more practically, you may want to use this for tools to, for example, I'm thinking, what can you use extension for this for? There's no example in this case though, in this page. But
these are extensions for Docker or for Docker desktop?
For Docker, actually. So this will be something from Docker to use. So the only weird thing is you have to distribute on Docker Hub. So that's the only thing.
No, I don't know if well, maybe I don't know if extensions can handle like different image formats. So for example, for VirtualBox, you have that format, right?
No, this extension is only for Docker only, so
Yeah,
you cannot use that on.
I don't know.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what I'd use an extension for.
Yep, but I want to see this because it's open up opportunity for developer to build stuff lah. Next one, there's a new UI thing from JetBrains. It's a preview. They simplify a lot of tools because JetBrains IDE is notorious. It's very notorious for complexity. So JetBrains beginning to actually redesign the IDE UI and simplify things for us.
Yep,
So yes.
So many years ago, when someone was always selling the JetBrains IDE for Ruby developers, and they've been sponsoring when we were having meetups. They're always sponsoring like these things for meetups, like free JetBrains licenses in this case Ruby, or if you're hosting a Python meetup, then they have that Python IDE that they had. And what I always asked them for was that where's how do I open a terminal inside the IDE, because that's if something is not handled by your extension, then I can just open the terminal and do it on the command line. And for the longest time, they did not have an integrated IDE extension that in their own IDE. You always have to open it in a separate like your actual terminal. And I think Fleet, the new front end that they have, actually has an IDE now. So maybe that's a realization by them that Atom had Atom. I don't know Atom if had one, but I know VS Code has one. Sublime Text does not have an IDE, but it does have like a terminal IDE, but it has an output pane, but you can't actually type through. But this one Fleet, I think, has a terminal. Yeah, it does have like that terminal. So it's VS Code and Atom has been prototyping or generating a lot of these things that many other IDEs are now having to include in order to be considered as front runners or as competitors.
Correct. In fact, JetBrains are not cheap, so to compete against VS Code and all that, they have to do more, and they have to do it easier to sell more. So because feature-wise, they're beginning to be very similar, except one is significantly cheaper compared to JetBrains, so they have to produce more value. So I'm looking forward to it. And also, I pay for PyCharm, which is built by JetBrains, so I don't want my money to be wasted. I just renew my subscription.
Yeah. Does
So
PyCharm have an integrated terminal?
it does actually. Most does actually. It
PyCharm.
just it does have it. It's actually under action and all that. That's the standard way for us to actually test some code. When running it is very troublesome. Running scripts very troublesome. So we do have it. They do have a lot of interesting things, but as I say, a lot of these things are beginning to be introduced. So, for example, previously, one of the big attraction for JetBrains IDE is the ability to remote coding. Nowadays, you get it for free in VS Code. They have database integration. That is actually a bit better, but VS Code have it in a way, right? So previously they have data integration for data science, which some occasionally do. Now VS Code have that as well. So as I say, the feature is there except what is free. So they have to back up lah. Next one. Good news is we have yet another load test tools, and what this claim is, this claim to be easy to write, like unit tests. What I don't like is the test is written in JavaScript. So yeah, okay lah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Just be careful about it. Just be very careful about your code. But they have all the necessary thing lah. Like previously you have to write all these with locals. It's actually very painful. No, it's actually not too bad in Python actually. It's just that they don't have things like having a hard converter to record browser session. Modern test tools do have that. It's not as cluttered as JMeter, for example, but it does all the right thing lah, like cookies, cryptography, HTTP2 support and all that. So there is a lot of good reason to have that actually. So yeah, and also can do cloud execution and distributed tests. More importantly, this is the thing that a bit lacking, not lacking, locals have it. They do have visualization, but it's not in form of InfluxDB and Grafana, because with this you can query for events as you test things. So yeah, it had a lot of good idea. I just don't like JavaScript, that's all. Or as I like to say to my junior, I tolerate JavaScript, not the same thing. I tolerate it. It's not my first language. So yeah. Next one. Anything to add? If not, I'm going to move on.
No.
Okay, mock call is yet another. So this is actually another question and answer session. Question and answer model. So you use this to actually attempt to build. So let's say you had a text-based support system. You will try to build in this. However it works, I do not know, because you are trying to adopt a model, so it's something that you need to test. But yeah, this is what people try to do lah. But this, unlike OpenAI, this is very limited. This only do question and answer. So, and this is smaller models compared to other big ones. So one thing I do not like about machine learning models is that they're big, they're huge, right? They're so big, I can just replace Big Mama joke with big AI model joke. You just silly. Okay, ignore me, I'm silly. So yeah, this one. Next one is yet another JavaScript model. A JavaScript framework for front end. And they do roughly the same thing, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know what's the difference. Do anyone exploit it? If not, I'm going to move on.
No.
Okay, and finally, this is Google's Cloud Forensic utilities. So these tools by forensic team to collect evidence from cloud platform. Currently, it support the big three. If you know your thing, then this is very useful. And believe it or not, sometimes you worry about your get hacked. This is very useful if you learn it. So learn your security, please. And this is the tools that will help you. So yeah, I'm done.
It's
so
useful.
They do this.
And right, it's useful for collecting evidence, right?
Correct. And because every time we had some, think about it, most of the people in my circle anyway, the normal tier, the God level tier. So when we do got hacked, most would lost, right? Will be lost. What should I do next and all that? So I'm hoping that tools like this, so more of the sysadmin. Let's not talk about sysadmin. There's rarely dedicated sysadmin anymore. Anyone that happens to work with infrastructure, senior engineers and whatnot, start learning these kind of tools, so that you would know how to handle things properly. So, for example, this thing handle things like the copy, the create volume copy, and all that. Previously, it's a bit hard to do. You want to do analysis, so you need to start with this. But this one, they have new tools that make it easy for you, and that to me is cool. If anything, at least you start collecting things to help the expert to do the work. Because by the time you call them and get quotation and all that, it's some time already, 1 or 2 days, and that's the damage is already very bad. So if you start the basic, at least you will limit the damage quite early on. So learn your security, please. So that's it. That's all. But let's talk about books, because we promised to do a book episode. Tristan, on the other hand, did not prepare his book. I cannot believe it.
No, I don't have the time to read a book right now.
Okay, fine.
Working on a few things.
Fine, I'm going to share.
I can share quickly a book that I was reading before, but not. I can't really talk about that so much. But I'll share it later.
Do that. Okay. So there is actually a few books. Let's start with something relevant to what we do. Then I'm going to start with. Then I'm going through. Okay, so this book that what I do is.
I'll put mine on the private chat so that you can load it later.
Yep. Manning. Yes, this is my password. ... Okay, I'm putting here because as it turns out, there's books that I did not put on Goodreads yet because I didn't actually read it. So let's think of. I'm going to show a few books that I think is worth it for you to keep. If anything, first one, The Art of Unix Testing, third edition coming out, but the second edition is very good. I'm going to open up some review. A preview of this book. First thing okay, Python book, wrong book. Stupid UI is this one. Good Unix Test. So this book is a book about principle. Some people do not like it simply because the example they write is for. Oh, interesting. It's ready already. After this, it's already out. Oh my goodness, it's already out. No, it's new. Okay. Either way, let's move on first. Second edition is the full book. The new edition is actually the early access book. Okay, early access book. One thing that people may not like is the example is for C#, is for .NET. So as a result, for that second edition, the book had a lot of tools that you may not heard of, and you may find it hard for you to learn. So for example, they use NUnit. But NUnit is just our standard unit test tools. It written the same thing, right? Then they use stub. They may use. What?
The technical term is a test harness.
Yeah, correct. So, yeah, but this one is more software focused than physical focused, which is why he used the term stubs instead. So it's not, as I say, software is not tested as rigorous as hardware thing because software doesn't burn easily. It's more like when it fails, it doesn't burn. Something you just let it pass, which is why software engineers smoke, because all the cancer sign is a warning, not an error. This is precisely that, what I mean. Okay, seriously. So they use stubs and no, I'm trying to find tools. I'm trying to find tools actually. Oh, I forget it. Yeah, it's toward the end. Okay, not really that. Here you are. As it turns out, tools is not really that important. But what I would recommend, so for example, you talk about Rhino mocks and all that, so people might find it, if of tool focus on tools, you will not able to pick it up very fast. But if you use but what you want from this book, and hopefully when the new version out, is learn the technique. If you have the second edition, you have to translate the code yourself. But I will still recommend. I will suggest that you wait a bit, because third edition, one is focused on JavaScript, so it's more relatable to people in my circle. That's one. For Python people, Go people, or even Rust people, you have to do your own translation of the technique over. You have to do your own translation of the technique over. But the technique is still correct. So for example, how do you should design your code so that you can insert your things in. So use your parameters. Parameter is there for a reason. So they can replace your database connection, for example, so they can mock the object. So yeah. First book, I cannot stop recommend The Art of Unit Testing. Wait for the latest version to be out, because the latest version may be more relatable. It's more updated, and more importantly, it's more relatable with people in our circle. That's one. Second book I will recommend on this list is actually, surprisingly, this one is highly recommend this, Operation Anti-Patterns. This book is it's about, believe it or not, even you're not running DevOps, it's about you can use this to learn to be a team lead. It's about being team lead, because being DevOps is really not a sysadmin. You are building processes. In some company, this is the job of team lead. Okay, team leads. So for example, paternalist pattern. What does it mean? So if a traditional organization, it means the sysadmin will set up, will block your access to do everything. So for people that used to work in lanyard company, data science people especially, they face this all the time. Lanyard company, semi-government agency, etc. So for example, they're facing all the time in a way that they are not allowed to install Python, because Python are not part of the approved stat. And the reason is that sysadmin are there as a barrier. They set up barrier. That's the anti-pattern. So to do proper DevOps, you should do automation. You should capture the real reason for approval process and understand things instead. And for that, you need knowledge. You need to delegate and all that. And that is how you actually become a team lead. Actually.
So this book is good for business people to read or tech people to read?
I suggest. No, this one is pretty technical. It's high level technical. It does not make sense as a business to read it, because they will get the wrong idea, and it's still technical. It's just that as a technical person, is very light in technical term. But this book, I recommend this because it have all the right practice. So this is the one I read recently, and this is actually how I set up the DevOps teams that are currently running right now. So I do not want to hold too much power because I'm lazy, but the reason is tools change all the time. The last thing you want is to set up a Byzantine bureaucracy to run code on the cloud, which is kind of pointless. All right, it's kind of pointless. So I recommend this, except I forget to put this on the list. I will put it later, sorry. And finally, this one, something I read very recently. I recommend this. This I talked before, but this one really covers the advanced algorithm lah. You will not use this at work most of the time, but when you do use it, when you do find the use of it, you'll be happy that you know about it lah. Because in practice, how often you use bloom filter at work? Think about it.
Well, if
How
you're
often
doing graphics, then or some kind of like
yeah, correct. So
that kind of software.
So as a layperson, you either go in and learn the way. If you go outside building software in an area that you're not familiar with, you either go in newly as a totally fresh person, or you will learn a bit more of this algorithm to make your life easier. You still have to learn things, but you will have one extra key for you to open some door. So you go to a new area, from web to doing something else, for example. From web to doing, then all these barriers are doors. So having these are like extra keys for one of those doors with multiple keys. So I recommend this because this is truly advanced algorithm.
But like you say, like you use it most of the time.
Yeah, you won't use it most of the time. You just learn it for self-knowledge, just in case. It's like science lah. Why do you sponsor science? You're not going to use it all the time. That's not the point. When you need it, you're glad you have it. But let's not talk politics now. because that goes to my complaint about why this country never have expert in AI or that, because you never invest in all those in the beginning, and you just want your result now. If something doesn't make result now, you will cut it off. Now certain thing need 10 years to get result. Okay, shut up. So this is tech book. Okay, tech book. Somewhat not tech book. I'm going to nudge. Richard Taylor is a recent Nobel Prize winner, 2 years back, I think. Nudge. Now, what I like about this book, it had the right idea. It had a lot of right idea about you want to help people, to push people to do the right thing. What I don't like about this book always try to split themselves between free market principle and getting people to do things. So this is what I don't like about this book. But he had a lot of right idea.
Well, he's talking about it because free market is all about the motivations or the triggers for human triggers, which is why it goes hand in hand. If you want people to do something, then you find the trigger or the motivations, set the environment to get that running, and the environment, like set up the environment, and people will naturally do that.
Precisely. And this is the theory behind nudge and all that. It's just that there's a lot of, free market had a lot of good idea. In fact, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you have choice to get things. You have choice to get things, but when you have to do, so I just feel that they have conflict, but they have the right idea in a way that you should aim. You should not turn into a dictatorship. You should make it easy to make choices. People should be able to make different choices, just in case. The environment must be right. So a good example that somewhat related to me in a way, how to make developer to follow the best practice. You automate the test running process to make it easy for people to write tests. You make it people to deploy code correctly with same default. But people need to know about the default that exists. So something like that. But either way, this is a 4-star book. Read it. If anything, it will open your mind. Then finally, I have a few. Then Aurora. Did I talk about this book before?
I don't remember. No.
Okay, Aurora. Kim Stanley Robinson, well known for Mars series. Except Mars series ultimately shows that terraforming Mars is successful. But the message that he wants to show is that terraforming Mars is hard. Unfortunately, he failed on the part in a way that because on the third book, they're ultimately successful. Unfortunately, this is a thing. People do not get the message within the book that terraforming Mars is hard, right? So as a result, you have Elon Musk that say we should go to Mars and terraform it. But this one is a bit more. This book, Aurora, is a bit more straightforward at the message. So it's about a generation ship. It's about a generation ship that goes to a star to attempt to colonize it, but in a way they failed because the world do not build for us. Earth are built for us. So, and to actually replicate Earth is very hard. So he shows that in the generation ship. Generation ship is big, right? They try, but yet they try to simulate Earth. This book ultimately said that it's very hard for you to do. So there's a message. This is a more straightforward message of the thing that he tried to say on the Mars book series lah. Not as popular, interestingly, but I highly recommend it. It have one of the best description, best and realistic description of a generation ship. And also they talk about human rights. So for example, who give us the right to get our kids born on a starship without a choice but to follow us to a planet that may kill them? So what kind of rights do we have? Read this. Highly recommended. Highly recommend this.
You already summarized the already. People don't need to read already lah.
But there's drama behind it. There's drama behind it. The whole point of the book is drama. So, oh yeah, before I show this, what other book you want to show? Anyone?
Show. What do you mean by show? Sean wants to show something. You have a lot behind you.
Some fiction books and some museum pieces that I like. I guess I start with sci-fi.
Yep.
The first book that got me hooked onto modern sci-fi. Means not when I was a child, right? When I was a bit older. It's this one.
Oh yeah, this is very good.
Yeah.
But this is not sci-fi. This is more contemporary than science fiction.
Well, technically it's historical fiction.
Yeah, I know. Yes,
it's technically historical. But yeah,
it's historical fiction, but the future part is more contemporary. But these have the best realistic depiction of CryptoPunks. Yeah. In a way that they are not very different. They are not very different than the crypto people nowadays. Different technology.
Yes.
Yes, I read this book twice. The book twice. You know that they have a series, the historical prequel.
Oh, you mean the Baroque Cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have those as well.
I'm trying very hard to finish it. It's very hard to read. Neil Stephenson had this weakness about him. He loved to stuff details in his book.
Yes, he goes into real details. Correct.
Problem at the end, sometime when he realized that he's at the end of the book and he still insists to put his details in the book. It's so crazy. But yes, I recommend this book. In fact, imagine that in a way I would call this science fiction in the way that he predicted the crypto bros. Different technology, same culture, interestingly. Yes, recommend that.
Well,
another
maybe
one?
It's just like that's just how the human nature happens to be. Whatever the technology, we get this kind of behavior.
There's a reason behind it, but yeah, next one.
Okay, this book is a book that I read when I was like maybe in my late teens. It's part of a whole series, like 8 or 10 books, something like that. Like the long series, but I really liked it. It really left an impression on me.
Yeah.
Titled 中国.
Oh, 中国. 中国 is, I know about the series. It's a future where China rules the world, but not for the reason that we know about.
Not China rules the world. There are only 2 groups of people left. Basically, the Chinese and Angmo.
Yeah.
2 groups of people. Yeah.
Yes. Then in a way that the Chinese type, they bring the technology as a result, and the world is very thick with gap. It's very thick. So as you dig deeper, you'll find all the history and all that. Something like that, right?
Massive scale. I'd say it left very deep impression. It's something that I would highly recommend.
Yep.
And I guess in a way, our world is slowly headed towards that direction.
Correct.
Or
Correct.
actually, where the two
Correct.
super are going to battle it out for dominance.
Yes. There's actually one more book I need to show, but let me pull that. Talk about epic science fiction. I do have one, but I need to pull my cable. Yeah, I just finished this book. It's
Yeah.
not easy to read.
I,
Foundation.
foundation. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to read. It's hard to read toward the end because again, it's a science fiction. It had a lot of detail. It has a lot of detail.
Well, but was it really that hard to read? It's
No, no,
the first few books were more of like a few short stories after another, and then they're just like
correct.
compiled in a timeline. So it's not that difficult, I think.
Is it a
Um,
language issue because the style of writing?
no, it's one of the big thing about this is a multi-generational story. It's less even that it's not really generation at all. It's more like it's
Civil like
generation in the way that uh they are so there's this group
Yeah.
of people that study things, so you have generations of people studying things, and the
Yeah.
technology evolve, the practice evolve, so to keep track of those practices is hard.
No, because this is not really written as a book in the beginning. So if you
Correct.
look into like how this was compiled, when Asimov was writing it, he was writing it as
Yep.
short stories for a magazine. So these are
Correct.
multiple short stories in a
Yes.
timeline, and so
Yep.
there are different characters per short story, and so it will
Yes.
sometimes reference back characters, but I guess what Swimming was trying to say is that they are because they are stories by to themselves.
Yep.
You can lose track of who's important for the next one. But although
Correct.
I didn't really, I mean, Seldon is the most important one, right? But
Correct.
like the mayor, for example, I don't even remember the mayor of the first story
Correct.
because he's just there to trigger the first crisis, and then to
Correct.
explain what are crises and etc. like that.
Correct.
He's there to introduce the story. It's not that important in the overall scheme of things. Just like
Correct.
I
Correct.
guess it's a reflection of history as well. You have people, important people, and then you have people who are supporting characters, and then you don't remember the name of them anymore.
Yes.
But in terms of technical stuff, I don't think it's that. I
No, it's
mean,
not technical. It's shallow
if you suspend
technology.
your disbelief, it doesn't really talk about the mathematics. It doesn't talk.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
it
no,
just
no.
says
Correct.
there's a law of large numbers that huge
Correct.
populations can be predicted, but individuals can't. Although by the time of
Yes.
the third foundation, then they are trying to predict the like spoiler alert the behavior of the mule, right, which is a
Yeah,
single
correct.
person. um,
Yes.
but you needed to, so that becomes a problem because you needed to have like a single antagonist.
Yep.
Otherwise, if your antagonist also spans like multiple short stories of multiple people, it becomes
Yep.
very difficult to say this is the bad guy because now you have
Correct.
multiple bad guys.
Correct.
You have to fight against multiple bad guys. It becomes
Correct.
very very confusing
It's
even more.
tedious. Yeah. So because there's a lot of character to keep track of actually. Then finally, one thing that I forget to bring out, you want to talk about ancient science fiction that's very hard to follow. Herbert's Dune. Dune is hard to read. It's very hard to read. It's epic. Star
but you can
Wars
watch the
version.
movie in IMAX.
Yeah. I watched the movie in IMAX. I recommend it. I highly recommend it. If anything, it's pretty. It's very pretty. So no, the movie you still can follow. You still can follow. It's not too bad. Uh,
It skipped a
here's
lot of things though, but then again, that's why it's easier to follow because you skip
correct.
many of the things.
Yes.
And
Uh,
what I find difficult sometimes for these kinds of science fictions is that they have terms for things like we have an ornithopter,
yeah.
which kind of points like it kind of sounds like what you think it is, but you still have to remember, okay, what's an ornithopter? It's like this
Correct.
helicopter, but then you have wings
Yeah.
that flap up and down very fast,
Yes.
like a locust or something.
Correct.
And then you
And
have like all
also,
of, yeah, like the poisons and all of that thing. You have to remember, and then you have to associate it with what you know as like what needless is, what poison is, what
Correct.
effects that does it do.
Correct. So Dune. Here's another hot take. Dune should finish on the first book. They should finish on the first book, and that's it.
I think
And
up to
you
three.
can finish. Yeah, you can finish the first book. It's done. If you want to something else, you can do up to three. Then you have like a
Yeah.
good
The next
thing.
arc.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
then
know. I
it
read.
becomes different.
Yeah.
The up to six, like the chapter house, is
Yeah.
incomplete, but that's like good writing. Anything beyond that is, yeah, I
It's
can't
milking
really
the franchise, lah.
after. Yeah, you can't really read it. You know the style is different. It's
Yeah.
just the cliffhangers are not supposed to be there.
Cause,
Yeah.
Yeah,
cause
it's
by
just
then it's Brian Herbert already. It's no
yeah,
longer.
Yeah.
correct.
Correct. So because he died, lah, Frank Herbert died, lah, so he didn't finish, lah. So yeah, then I'm going to open up. So what other book? And what other book you have before you open up?
A few more lah.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
one is
Show first.
this one is not science fiction, but this is a book based in Malaysia, based in Penang during World War II, and I really really liked it. It's one of those books that made me cry a lot.
Yeah.
It's a,
Oh, nice. I didn't read it, but I should try. I should try to explore something not science fiction.
This is not sci-fi. This is historical fiction. It's set in Penang during World War II, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of things happen. Right? A lot of drama.
Yeah, I know. It's a war. Yeah, I know. It's a crazy war. I know.
And nice thing about it is in Penang, so a lot of things are very relatable when you read it.
Yes. And this is actually thanks to UNESCO. As a result, Penang can't take down the building, so you have some idea how things look. So yeah.
Then I've got a couple of maybe, because you guys know I like microprocessors, right?
Yeah, correct.
So I have a couple of technical books. They are probably music pieces now.
Yep. Oh, the transputer. Linus used to work there. Right?
Yeah, no, that's Transmeta.
Oh, Transmeta. Oh, okay.
Transmeta is a very modern company. Transputer is a very, very old computer. It's one of the first highly parallel, highly concurrent. Just to give you an idea, this book was published in 1988.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So it's really old. This one is collecting.
Yeah.
Collect books and CPU.
Yes.
This is another old CPU.
Oh yeah, this is ancient. I know.
MIPS 2000 was the first. The processor was the first so-called publicly successful kind of MIPS architecture.
Yeah.
Basic MIPS architecture, so to speak.
Correct. Yeah. Then things goes downhill since then. Then suddenly, it's ARM and RISC again. ARM, x86 trying to catch up. Then RISC.
Now MIPS is basically become RISC-V, yeah.
Yeah, correct. So yes.
MIPS the company now.
Yeah. Oh, MIPS company actually still alive. I thought they died somehow. Interesting.
They stopped selling the CPUs at a couple of decades ago, I think, maybe late 90s. Then they went the ARM model where they licensed the IP.
Okay.
A lot of like, for example, embedded systems like routers and stuff, they were running MIPS based CPUs even until recently So the company has always been doing IP licensing and all that for decades or so. Last couple of decades. And now they've gone into the RISC-V camp.
Yep. So I'm looking forward to that. So this is the book by Tristan, A Guide to Reading and Writing Japanese Libraries in 3 hours each.
Very useful. I can never seem to memorize hiragana.
Yeah, same actually.
Yeah. So it's an interesting technique on memorizing it because you've probably watched Sherlock, the memory palace thing, right?
Yeah.
That is like a visualization of what a memory palace looks like. That's not actually how a memory palace works. The way you do it is that you visualize yourself inside your memory palace, and then if you want to remember something, you go through one of your rooms, and then
Yep.
you have to create a story about something that you want to remember.
Yep.
So let's say you want to remember, I don't know, like a certain number, let's say pi, right? And
Mm.
then one of them was like, what I think I remember is like how I want to drink alcoholic, of course, after the I forgot the whole mnemonic, but it's the number of characters per word on that sentence. So
Mm-hmm.
how I want to drink alcoholic, of course, after the heavy chapters involving quantum mechanics. I think that's the mnemonic. So
Mm-hmm.
you're go to your room, you remember that, and then it's like basically you're using multiple points of recognition because of that story, and then it triggers a lot of the rest of the story, and then you remember what you're supposed to remember in your memory banks.
Correct.
Similar
Correct.
to this, you create a story for each of the character,
Mm-hmm.
like because of the shape, the way you pronounce it,
Mm-hmm.
and and the same with memory palaces. The more absurd the story is, the more you remember it. Similar to when you want to remember a password, let's say, like
Yeah.
multiple letters, you can create a story out of those things.
Correct.
I think
Correct.
XKCD had that comic as well. The
Yep.
Staple.
passphrase. Yeah, that comic where you have like a, yeah, horse stable. I forgot. Like say, maybe you can load that up. So it's similar to that kind of technique. And yeah, so I'm
Yep.
I'm starting this because I'm going on a vacation starting next week. So I wanted to say, okay, maybe I'll try to memorize a few characters, or maybe even the whole alphabet while I'm going on vacation. And
Yep. Cool. So let's go back to my. I'm going to share. My next thing is actually I'm going to share my Goodreads link. So this is the book that I actually read. All right, this is the book I actually read. Uh, Nomena. This is interesting, but might be a bit too close to home, and also it's a bit confusing. So the Numena series is actually it's a very different sort of first context story. Alien lands all there, but in between, this one also have things like American style politics in it because it is in America. So somewhat related, but I only have short time. Let's go quickly into something that I would really, really recommend. This one, okay. Charles Strauss, Escape for Eucalyptus. You don't. You should don't read only this book. Read the Laundry Files. The Laundry Files. Okay, the Laundry Files, because Laundry Files is about a world where maths and computer science have real effect to the world, right? You can spawn monsters from programs and equations, advanced equations. So to control that, there are these agencies created since World War II to control this. As a result, the agency are full of nerds. Full of nerds. So they have things about password policies. How the what's the group that against piracy again? The software BSA. So they got the BSA mess with them because the only way to prevent certain type of monster coming out is to use extremely old version of commercial software, and they don't have license for it because the license expired a long time ago. So this is what I recommend. Uh, quickly, the Dune. Yes, say I read Dune. But where's the book about Dune? Oh yeah, I actually read it quickly because Dune is hard to read. Ancillary Revenger. Funny. Project Hail Mary. Read this one. This is good. Highly recommend this. Okay.
I just read that too. Hail Mary.
Yes. The first context story is not that realistic, but that's the point. It's funny. It's good. It's smart. It's still very smart. So this one, I highly recommend. You should read it. Actually, the one that I'll be seeing is actually the Kaiju Preservation Society. Have you read this? And
No.
Nope.
this is very new. I recommend this because it's a funny version of Jurassic Park. Okay, it's a funny version of Jurassic Park. I recommend this. It's very cool. So you should read this. They may have a. I do not know whether they want to do a sequel. I can potentially see one, but it get weird. So Kaiju Preservation Society. But for some reason, it's not on my read list. I don't know why. Elder Race and no, it's good, but not how I say, not notable, not notable. Yeah, you should read this one. Also not notable. I like this. The End of the World. The End of the World is about things in the ancient world, how those things kill us. So it's about ancient world. I have a phase where I like the Earths lah. Field Note from Catastrophe. I recommend this because if you love, it's about how people do things to make Earth for the better, green energy and stuff. A lot of feel good story lah. Motherboard Diary. Always read it. It's good. Remember to read it.
Maybe you can compile links to your
No,
Goodreads.
this is the compile. I'm going to just throw this. I'm just all the book that I recommend. That all the book here is very good, and anything more than 4 star is very not. It's not. It's good enough to
Because
be notable.
you can put it as part as similar to like how we do the links, and it's easier
Yeah,
for.
but it's like 300 books. You know how many books I have?
Well, you don't recommend all 300, right? You only recommend the ones
Yeah,
that.
for example, Math for Programmer, I recommend this because math is awesome. Yeah, you're right. Except I try to figure out how to share this
Yeah,
without sharing this book out.
yeah.
Because this is the closest thing
Try.
I have. Uh-huh.
Mhm. I have a few comments as well on the private chat. Like the Pi wordplay, for example, is interesting. It's not a book, but it's a good page. There's a poem, for example, that will give you 740 characters of pi.
Yeah.
So if you memorize the poem, then um,
Yes.
basically you know the 740 characters. It's from the memory palace, and also uh, John is talking about like more about the memory palace on the comments. So you might want to
Yeah.
check that as well out as well.
Correct. So either way, just go through here. Let me see if there's filter. Let me see if there's a filter so that I can share the filter URL. If I can share the filter URL, that'll be a lot easier to share. Except, how do I
No,
share
if
this?
maybe it's better if you pick 10 and then share 10 because if it's similar. So again, you've read Nudge, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is if you have like this too many things to recommend, then it
Yes.
becomes more difficult to choose. So if you
Yep.
want really to people to if you want to recommend books to people, you don't inundate them with 300 5-star recommendations. Give them the 10 that you think they should start. They will start it, and then if you want to read more, then
Yep.
here's the rest of them.
Yes. Da, 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 da. Yeah, you're right. So either way, I'm going to share some of this book in until I curate more of this book.
Hmm.
Too many things I need to
Yeah,
curate. But
let's get the top 10 by swimming. Then I think that would
yes,
be interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, and Pi
excellent.
wordplay. Do you want to open that?
Yeah, it's here.
Yes. So if you scroll down a bit, the yeah, that's the poem.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
starts the near a raven. So po e near a raven. So that's
Yeah.
3.14, right?
Yeah.
1 5. So it's the number of
Yes.
characters of the word is the basically the number. And if you have like 10, it's a zero. But if you have 11, then it's like two characters, or 13 or something. So yeah, the longer the word,
Yep.
then it's like two characters. Might be
Correct.
an interesting thing to remember.
Yes. And you might be nerdier than most of us, if
Well,
anything.
I mean, it's good to just like say the poem and then say that's well. Actually, that's actually an interesting one that you create a poem and then the point is that it represents pi. So
Yes,
that's a poem by itself.
correct. So yeah lah. So series for historical fiction. This last one. One more I'm looking forward for historical fiction. Yes, yes, Mongolia. I didn't read Mongolia yet,
Right? Can
but
you open it?
I'm just copying to the right
Ah,
tab. I'm copying to the right tab now.
mhm.
It's a collection actually. It's collection by well-known authors. So yes, this is actually highly recommend on my list. That yeah, this is good, but what I want to show is something that somewhat comes from Mongolia is the rise and fall of Dodo. Have you heard of it?
No.
Rise and fall of Dodo. It's not on my top 10 list, but I recommend this is somewhat recommendable because it's funny. It's funny as a sci-fi.
Do you want to go through the comments?
Yeah, so let's go through comment. Let me go through comment while I do all the other thing. Let's see. Comment. Tech Up Calendar have issues apparently, so they will look at that later. Uh, computers are trends now. Ha 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 ha. I know what he means. Yes. In short, yes. Nowadays, with computers, have one of these days, computer will actually have FPGA components in it. So yes, it's transferable. So yes. So I don't care what conservative things. So this is actually how memory palettes would work and Japanese. So for Japanese, so yeah. Then finally, John is talking about BSA. So about the laundry files and how the BSA, what's the organization that foils the agency to use very old software on very old computers. Yeah, that's a BSA. It's fun. It's a funny episode as well. So, you know what? I'm going to write an article soon-ish. I don't know when. Maybe after I watch Jurassic World, which I heard is bad, but I'm gonna watch it anyway. Then Top Gun. I really watched Top Gun. Top Gun is good. Watch Top Gun. So with that said, I hope Chi Leong will be back next week. And I do not know what we have next week, to be honest. I don't have a strong plan. I have multiple small plans. So for example, I have the gas sensor up and running. Now I soldered it. Now I just need to integrate it. Where the hell did I put it? Oh. So yeah. So yeah, next week maybe we have something interesting to talk about. Other interesting thing to talk about. What I do not know yet, but let's see. So anything else you have? So where's you going for your vacation, Tristan? Or you prefer to keep it private so that we don't trace you?
What are you talking about? Sorry,
Your
what were you
vacation.
asking? Yeah, what about
Your
it?
vacation. Where you plan to go?
I'm just going back to Manila and that's it.
Okay.
I don't know
Oh,
yet
is it
what
easy
I'll
to
do
go now?
this month. I
I-
guess so. What do you
Okay.
mean by easy?
As in how long the
Like,
quarantine?
well,
How
no, no,
many?
no, no more. It's the same as
No.
Malaysia. It's no more quarantine. It's just you just need to go through um, like confirming that you were vaccinated and all of these things, and then it's
Is
all
is
easy.
my SJ is my SJ recognized there?
Since February this year, yes,
Okay, cool.
because apparently some Malaysians were stuck in the airport
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
government of Malaysia never talked to the government of the Philippines about these, and
Yes.
then so yeah, when they said please rescue us, then now there's like this agreement to recognize
Okay.
each other's things, each other's
Vaccine
vaccination
certs lah.
certificates.
Yep. Cool. Very nice. So have fun back to your family. It's a long time since. So yeah, the gas sensor. It's hard to see, but it exists. Just to prove that it exists. But this one is a bit sucky because this only return one value. So yeah. So that's it. Thanks for listening. I'm going to compile a book list. You know what? I'm going to compile a yearly book list because I might not recommend. You know what? I might no. In fact, I'm going to recommend. I'm going to do two lists. Best of all time will be damn hard, and more importantly, best of this year will be reasonably easy. Oh well. That's it. Thanks for indulging. I'm going to cut ourselves off. So shall we say goodbye? Bye.
Bye. See you
Thanks,
again next
John, for staying. You guys, you are awesome. Yeah.